video. Hello classmates, I'm Philip Bradford, and this is my presentation of the movie assessment of the leadership environment for Crimson Tide. Now what we're going to talk about today is the core leadership style of Captain Frank Ramsey. And then we're going to discuss the core leadership style of XO Ron Hunter. And then we're going to talk about which leadership style I would or would not emulate. And then we're going to take Kelly's followership description, and we're going to talk about what leadership style was used in a particular scene and the proper interaction between the leader and the follower. Now, James Callaghan, who was a prime minister back in the mid-70s for the United Kingdom, he once said, a leader must have the courage to act against an expert's advice. Now, this is kind of what happened exactly with XO Hunter and Captain Ramsey. So let's take a look first at Captain Ramsey. Now, he's played by Gene Hackman in the movie, and Gene did an excellent job as playing this, what I call authoritarian leadership. This was his core leadership style throughout this movie. Traits of that leadership style is they tell people what to do and how to do it. They direct and control all activities. They have very little meaningful participation with their subordinates. Now, a couple of scenes in the movie that kind of brings that out is when Captain Ramsey is talking to XO Hunter about his decision to run the drill during that fire. And you know, he takes him into his quarters and he says, "You don't agree with me, do you?" And XO Hunter did not agree with him, but he was very stern in talking to him. Then there's the scene where XO Hunter talks to Captain Ramsey about the morale on the ship. And you remember when he says the guy's morale's down, he says, "Well, we need to kick him in the ass, don't we?" And he says, "No, we need to pat him on the back." And that's a perfect example right there of the two leadership styles that both these men display. Then, of course, there's the big scene that we've all talked about in the class where XO Hunter and Captain Ramsey get into the big argument, and XO Hunter relieves Captain Ramsey of his command of the ship. Then there's Ron Hunter, who's played by Denzel Washington. Again, excellent job in acting here for this script. And I think that XO Hunter's core leadership style was participative, which is also known as democratic. Now, in this type of leadership, the traits of this is they involve employees in decision making. They motivate and encourage their employees. And they build a feeling of self-worth in their employees. The involvement helps develop skills for their employees by letting them get engaged and getting involved in it. It builds their confidence levels in completing tasks. And then he touched on a little bit about delegative and authoritarian leadership. And I'm going to talk about a few of the scenes here where XO Hunter displayed these. He demonstrates trust in follower by giving important tasks, and he has confidence in that employee. We see this in the delegative style when he calls those orders for the heat of battle. He's up and he's giving those orders after he's relieved Captain Ramsey of his command. And then there's the scene where he tells them to close that hatch. Those men are in there. They're alive at the time, and they're going to drown if he closes that hatch because the ship has been hit with a torpedo from another enemy ship. And he orders them to close that hatch. And so here we see the delegative and the authoritarian leadership style that XO Ramsey has to display. So you see, there are times when you have to show other leadership styles. What leadership style would I emulate? Of course, it would be XO Hunter's leadership style. I like the way he works. I like the way he commands. some traits he had. He was very ethical. He did the right thing, even when it was hard to do. We've talked about that in class some. He's very personable. We'll talk in a minute how he gets on to the guy down that got into the fight. He's a man of character. He's courageous. He stood up to the captain of the ship. He's very stoic. When the captain asked him to give him the key and he hit him in the face, he just stood there and looked at him. He took that key off and put it on his neck. Captain hit him again. He just stood there and looked at him. Then when they sat down, they had 3 minutes to talk about it. Captain starts talking to him about horses, and he even corrects the captain on where the horses were from. They weren't from Spain, they were from Portugal. Now, he's a team player. As soon as that fire broke out in the kitchen, you saw him suit up and he ran right into the fire. And then he was a teacher, an instructor. These are the traits that make XO Hunter the leader that he was. Then talking about Kelly's followership description, I chose the scene where Officer Danny Rivetti had just got into that fight in the mess hall. So he gets in a fight, and XO Hunter sees the fight, and he chastises him for the incident. And then Rivetti apologizes as XO Hunter's getting on to him. And then XO Hunter jokes with him about the people that read those comic books. Everybody knows that Kirby Silver Surfer, that's hard to say, is the only true surfer. And so he makes a joke with him after he's just reprimanded him, told him he'd write him up if he ever did it again. Both of them laugh after the discipline. But in Kelly's leadership description, he talks about leadership is a relationship. And that's what XO Hunter did there. He developed a relationship. And followers become leaders is what Kelly talks about. And if you think about later in the movie, it is Rivetti who goes and frees them after XO Hunter and them are locked in that room, and he hits the guy in the mouth with a shotgun. And he became a leader at that point. So we've discussed two different types of leadership styles, participative and authoritarian, with these two great leaders depicted in this movie here. And I hope that through this discussion today, we have enlightened you in some way on these leadership styles. Thank you, and my name is Philip Bradford, and this is my presentation. If you'll pause with me for just a minute. I'd also like to thank my audience, Lieutenant Bruno, Cheryl, and Sharon. Thank you, guys.